All right. Look at that, Scotty.
All
I
right.
think we're live. Holy cow, we're live.
We are. I'm yeah, looks good.
I look better than you.
Yeah,
So,
well, yeah. I can fix that with a shower. So I don't know where you're going with that, but no,
all right.
it's good. What's
Yeah.
what's going on, everybody out there? Got Periscope up and going,
Yep.
which is pretty cool.
Yep.
And yeah, so let's get right to it. What do you want to start with?
I think for a while, we were talking about the Islanders streak, but I think the Penguins, although they put the win streak aside, there's a point streak still going. But then at the same time, very quietly, you have, if you look at the standings right now, and you look at the Metro Division, you have, as far as the last 10 games record, you have the Isles 9-0-1 in second place in the Metro. So after all that winning,
Yeah.
all those games, they're 9-0-1, and the team that's in front of them is Washington Capitals with a 9-0-1 also. And they currently have a 6-game win streak. So, pretty interesting. So let's talk about the Capitals, because I think they deserve a little bit of attention. And that's quite an accomplishment. They are leading the Metro Division with 29 points. They've played 2 more games than the Islanders. So the Islanders have played 16 out of 25 points. So with all things being right in the world, it's possible that, in theory, these teams are actually tied. If Islanders were to win that 2-game differential.
I mean, sure. So, one of the big things with the Caps, they're, I think, 10-0-1 in their last 11.
Yeah.
I mean, so, that's pretty incredible, all by itself. So streak or not, I mean, that's pretty awesome. 13-2-3 is their overall record.
Yeah.
They're actually playing a different style of hockey this year. It was I can't remember I think it was listening to the NHL channel on Sirius XM, and they had talked about how Todd Reardon was playing a more attack oriented game, and so what that would do is that would leave your goaltender kind of out to dry. Is when you're really trying to force, you're really going after the puck.
Right.
And so that's an interesting comparison, that style of hockey as compared to what the Islanders are doing under Barry Trotz, which is really playing a defensively sound game, and then attacking, or counterattacking. And so it's interesting that those two styles have gotten those two teams to the same place. But just playing it very differently. So I think that's interesting, how that's going with that. I mean, the Capitals, they've been good for years. They're going to continue to be good for years. It's just, it's one of those teams you expect to be at the top of the league every year. So
Right. Interesting, nonetheless, that you have the 2 best teams. I mean, if we go and look at some, if I were to glance at some stats really quick, which is what I am looking at right now, just based on the entire division, right? Like if I go, and this is courtesy of NHL, if I look at the league standings instead of division standings, okay, and I look at overall points, you have Washington. The top 3 teams are 2 out of the top 3 teams are the Metro Division. You have Washington 1, 29 points, St. Louis second with 27 points, and the Islanders third, 25 points. Once again, the 2 teams in the top 2 spots have played 18 games. The Islanders have only played 16 games. impressive nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, didn't the Islanders start like 1-3-0?
Yes.
Our first 4 games. So
Yep.
yeah, I mean, it it just happens, and it's good. When the team comes together, they start playing the right way, and they play consistently. They don't have to necessarily suffer through injury after injury. So they may have injuries, but they bring players in that they can plug and play and just keep it going. And that's what you want to see out of a team. That's a testament to the leaders in the locker room. It's a testament to the coaching staff. It's also a testament to the GM. The GM, has to go out and find these players that are going to be able to perform and play the game the way the coach wants them to. So both the Capitals and the Islanders, 2 great organizations. They've got really good leadership. They've got great coaches. They've got character players on the rosters. And St. Louis, you mentioned them as well. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. There's just good organizations built from the top to the bottom.
Yeah.
So,
before we get too far into this broadcast, obviously, in being on Periscope, for anyone who's following, please feel free to throw any comments in there and just say hi. Even if you just want to, if you do say hi, just say hi from wherever you are. Let us know from what part of the world you're following us from. But yes, any questions, all questions welcome, and we'll try to address all of them. Moving forward, I definitely wanted to touch on, as it's relatively, I guess, speaking, still early in the season, is for people who aren't aware of different ways of viewing these games. We have the what's popular amongst, I know yourself, myself, is the NHL GameCenter, which I believe is the officially endorsed NHL viewing package, paying viewing package. And this is something where you would subscribe to this, I believe, in US dollars. It is $149 for the season. And that enables you to view live, out of market, games for every team, home and away, for the entire season. And you're able to stream these games on any laptop, desktop, cell phone, tablet. And from my experience and just from them tweaking this app over the last few years, everything runs like butter. I believe one of the newer advances in the app and in the stream is that it's running at about 60 frames per second, and it is at 1080p, and it looks beautiful. Scotty, what about yourself? What have been your experiences with it?
So this is the first year I've had it. I got it because the cable provider that I shifted cable providers. When I took a look at what was offered with the NHL Center Ice package, which is what I have consistently gotten year after year on my cable provider, it really it came down to cost, and it came down to availability. And you pointed out, I mean, the thing is, it's platform agnostic. So you can literally watch it on anything. If you're in the car, not driving, of course, you go to a hotel, whatever, you have the ability to watch those. I mean, there's also the different camera angles. Yeah. They have the overhead cams over the goals that you can watch. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different features with this thing. Right. But it's interesting. I was listening to a conversation on a call-in show this past week where there are blackouts for communities that are nearby, major markets, that they can't watch home games for their teams, or they can't watch home games of teams that are nearby. And it's all because of the blackout rules that go along with these apps. And so, several providers, I think Dish, DirecTV in Canada, they are at odds with the local broadcasters of games. So like where you would have an over-the-air broadcast perhaps in Canada, Dish, DirecTV aren't aren't able to carry them, or they're blacked out on their network. So people that are using those services can't watch the games. And so, there's still some work to be done. When the NHL partnered with Major League Baseball to develop their NHL websites, and they basically put a standard format on the website. They also leverage the Major League Baseball and the way that they deliver their online content with regards to games. It definitely revolutionized. You know what you're going to get every time you go to a website. You know what you're going to get every time you go to the NHL app. If it were me, though, I'd like to see them take the next step and divorce, and somehow have the NHL, or at least the NHL app, divorce itself from the restrictions that come from those broadcasters. And it may mean that they need to go to every game, set up their own broadcast, so that they can, they're not having to partner with or license from those other broadcasters. But again, I'm really impressed with the versatility. The regional sports networks are also available to you. Like I mentioned, the Center Ice app. Of course, there's always the good old fashioned, throwing up the VPN and scouring the internet for any feeds.
No idea what you're talking about there.
Certainly don't endorse that, but I got to tell you, again, listening to that call-in show, a lot of people are resorting to that, and that's a loss of revenue. And so, the NHL is missing out on that. And of course, a lot of those feeds also aren't in HD.
Well, let's kind of. I don't want to really endorse that in the sense that that's. I think it's one of those things where you kind of get what you pay for, right? And what I really enjoy with the Game Center is the fact that you have the real-time sort of play-by-play scorekeeper, score tracker. I forget what the in-game name of it is. The game tracker, or stat tracker, whatever it is. It shows which players are on the ice for which team, and a play-by-play of what's happening in the game. You can choose to follow the live stats, or you can watch a 4-game picture-in-picture of, 4 games. You can choose any 4 games that are going on and split your screen, and that's something that the app provides. Is the ability to split your screen into 4 quadrants and have a different game playing on each screen, and you can choose which screen you want to hear the audio from. So it's great from the sense that if you're a real hockey nut, you can really get your fill. And it really breaks down the live stats and the scorecard and so on. You can see everything that's happening in real time. So I think from that sense, they do a really, really nice job. And I think that's their bread and butter, is that they really feed into the hockey fanatic in the way they present it. You can choose different camera angles per feed. You can have a goalie cam. You can have the home audio play-by-play. You can have the away team play-by-play. You can just choose this per game. So really nice job. And then when the games are over, you can also play it back. So and on those playbacks, the timeline at the bottom of the screen, you can pause, obviously fast forward, and it's also notated with where the goals have happened and who scored those goals. You can click on those notations and just go straight to where the goals were and see, just see that part of the game. So very versatile software. A lot behind the scenes going on there. It's easy to overlook it, but I think it's well worth the money.
Absolutely. And, just like anything else that's online, I encourage anybody that's looking to do that. Look for coupon codes, look for discounts, because you don't have to pay that full price. But just my platform of choice in my office is my PlayStation 4. Yeah. Using that. But that thing's out there for any of your platforms. So I agree. It's a great tool. It really enables a game to be brought into really anywhere that's got an internet connection. So.
Okay, I think for this next one, this next story, we touched on the Capitals, and I touched on it very briefly in introducing the topic of the Capitals' win streak is what's going on with the Islanders. Yes, their win streak was broken by the Penguins last week on Friday, and that was, it was an interesting game from the point that we saw something from the Islanders that we haven't seen, which is they have a very, very high win percentage when they score 3 or more goals in a game. And in this particular game, they not only scored 3 goals, but the other team had scored 0. So they were up 3-0 on the Penguins. And the Penguins came back to tie the game 3-3 by the end of regulation. And in overtime, the Penguins won. So the win streak was broken. However, because it was tied at the end of regulation, the Islanders still had gained a point. And so their point streak continued. Now, that continued into yesterday, being Saturday, the 9th, November 9th, where they played the Florida Panthers. Very interesting for a couple of reasons. One is, and I think this is something, before we get into this, talking about this and sharing this topic, and I think maybe we should put a timer on this one, because being an Islanders fan, I think I need to be curbed on this one.
Sure.
So
I'll just call it a 2-minute minor. Get a 2-minute minor. Yeah.
All right. So let's do this. We're going to make this a 2-minute minor. Ready? Go. All right. So, we had a very interesting development because the chemistry of the team changed, and it changed from the sense that we had some returning regular starting players. We had the return of Nick Leddy, and we had the return of Jordan Eberle. And it just so happened that Eberle had a play in the game where the puck got behind Grice, and Eberle laid down basically on the goal line and actually stopped the shot, which was pretty incredible. And then the play went back the other way, but it was a pretty impressive play on his end. But we won the game, and we beat the Florida Panthers. I say we, the New York Islanders, beat the Florida Panthers 2-1 in regulation with, that change in chemistry in the players and the lines and so on. So very good from that aspect. Not only good to see that they can bounce back after having a streak broken and show where their focus truly is, and I give credit to Trotz on that for keeping them focused on the task at hand, but also from the standpoint that players were able to be removed and then plugged in and so on, and see that the effectiveness is still very high.
Yeah, I mean, again, that was the back-to-back, right? So both teams had played the night before. Right. The Islanders, had to make the trip. The Islanders made the trip to Florida, right? Or did they? Was it in? Oh no, it was in Nassau. It was a home game. So
yeah.
Yep. So it was a home game.
It wasn't in Nassau. It was at the Barclays Center.
Oh, good call. So yeah, I mean, it was just both teams on the end of back-to-backs, but that was one of those games where you really just have to dig deep and play conservatively, and they were able to pull it out. So points in 12 straight games. It's good. So
all right, that's the end of that. So
yeah,
perfect timing on that.
Yeah,
way to wrap that up.
So along the same lines, throw another 2 minutes up there. I'll sit in the box for this one. I want to talk about the Penguins win over the Blackhawks the other day.
Wait. Ready?
Yep.
Go.
All right. So, the Penguins had a 10-game losing streak against the Blackhawks. So the Blackhawks just, they haven't been good for a while now. And yet somehow whenever those two teams play, the Hawks make it seem like it's Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals. It's incredible. We don't know where it comes from. So 10-game losing streak against the Hawks. And they ended up winning 3-2. So once again, Pittsburgh spots some goals, but ends up coming back. 26 consecutive failed power play opportunities for Pittsburgh, with a roster that's Malkin, Crosby, not Letang, recently injury, but just big names, and just can't put the puck in the back of the net 26 times. So that's incredible. But the coaching staff juggled the lines and put a few new combinations together. But Penguins being injury riddled, Crosby, he tweaked his ankle, blocked a shot, had to leave the game in the third period. So again, I'm one of those people that I obviously have a team that I follow more closely than others, but just as a general fan of the game's only good when the best players are playing. Right. And you never want to see people go down with an injury that keeps them out long term, especially when it is, quite honestly, the best 200-foot player in the game with Sidney Crosby. So it was a pretty good game. It's good to get that streak taken out, but 26 failed power play opportunities just is horrible.
Right. You got 8 seconds left.
No, I mean that's about it. Hopefully they can carry the momentum.
You got it, man. All right. Moving on to the next topic. I think it's kind of interesting when you hear in the media, and it's reported, you hear it on GameCenter, you hear it on ESPN, there's a lot of chat when games are discussed, schedules are discussed, excuse me, and you'll hear it said that the teams that are in a good position by Thanksgiving basically will make, there's a very, very high percentage that they'll be in the playoffs. So if they basically are in a playoff position by Thanksgiving, they'll be in the playoffs come April. What is our sense of that, and how many? What kind of time are we putting on this?
Let's go 4 minutes on this one. It's a good topic. Let's go with a double minor.
Double minor. All right, bear with me one second there, Scotty. Let's go with the double minor. And go. All right.
So taking a look at sportsnet.ca from last year, there was an article written about how important it was for teams to be in playoff position by American Thanksgiving, of course, because it's a Canadian website. So this is last year. This isn't this year, but last year it was said that over the last 5 seasons, 77.5% of teams in a playoff spot at American Thanksgiving have went on to clinch a berth in the postseason.
Right.
77.5. That's 6. That's like.
It's huge.
That's incredible, right?
Yeah.
Where it's predicted that early. Now, I've heard fans say that games in the beginning of the season really don't matter, and it's what happens after the break. But I got to tell you, American Thanksgiving really is a defining line, because you get to a point where trades. If trades are going to happen, they need to be made before the Christmas break. Right. The CBA actually has a lockdown on roster transactions. Right. But a team really needs to know where it's at, about that point, because there are some decisions that have to be made. And it's pretty interesting, 77.5% over the past 5 seasons. And, of course, we all know we had one team that really bucked that last year with St. Louis. But and here's a great, again, looking at this article last year, the Florida Panthers were 7 points out of a playoff spot. They won 25 of their last 35 games. Yeah. But fell short of the playoffs. Yeah. 25 out of 35. I mean,
but you know what? I mean, a stat like that doesn't really, it sounds nice, but it almost makes you wonder, what the hell were they doing? What the heck were they doing prior to that point? Why would it take such a Herculean effort? And if they could have won 25 out of 35, why didn't they win more on the first, the first leg?
Yeah, no, it's true, right? Like, maybe there was a game where some of the players kind of took the night off, ended up in a tie. They lost. So that was a point. They missed the playoffs by 1 point. All they had to do was go to turn one of those losses into an overtime loss. Yep. and then
Yep.
maybe turn two of those losses into an overtime loss.
Yep.
Now they're in. They could have done that in the fall.
Exactly. In the first week, they could have done that.
Yeah.
It just proves the point. Drives the point home. Every point counts, and you can't take anything for granted, and you're scrapping for everything for sure. But very interesting stats. It's very interesting. It's an interesting stat in the fact that, and I think you touched on it, is seeing that, based on trends, some teams get slow starts, some teams get fast starts. But with all that being said, it's still 77%. So it's interesting.
Well, in the days before the salary cap, you had teams that could really load up, and they really pulled themselves apart with their talent. Also, before the loser point was established, and again, I don't have the article in front of me there, but that's another interesting discussion. If the loser point goes away, teams aren't in that are in now. I mean, that really opens it up. So, it's interesting. So,
crazy stuff. All right. That's going to wrap up that topic. Next on our topic list here, I believe a story that you wanted to touch on, and I know that it's an interesting topic, is Don Cherry. So give us a little of the background here, what we're talking about.
So this, I believe it was last night, Don Cherry, in his Coach's Corner segment, made some remarks, and basically says, goes to talking about downtown Toronto, and I'll just kind of read this off. It's downtown Toronto, forget it. Downtown Toronto, nobody wears a poppy, and I'm not going to. How about running for the people that buy them? Now you'll go to the small cities, the rows on rows. You people love that come here, whatever it is. You love our way of life. You love our milk and honey. At least you can pay a couple bucks for a poppy or something like that. These guys paid for your way of life that you enjoy in Canada. These guys paid the bigger price. And basically, he said, you people that come here, right? He's basically talking about immigrants and not wearing poppies. There was some damage control. The network had to say something to him. They had to come out and release a statement. And, the guy's getting old, and he's controversial as it is now.
Yeah.
But, to come out and say something like that, when, to be honest, hockey to me is one of the most non-political sports in the world.
Yep.
It's just one of the things I love about going to a hockey game is it doesn't matter. Like, there's no politics involved. Right. You don't worry about if the players are going to take a knee during the anthem.
Right.
There's nobody out there trying to make any kind of a political statement. It's you go to arenas in Canada. The fans there know the anthem of the United States, national anthem. They'll sing it with the PA system goes out. I mean, it's incredible. It's just one of those things where you get somebody like this making such a divisive statement, and the guy has a following. He's been around for such a long time, and just to come out and say something like that, I don't want to say the guy's going senile, but for crying out loud.
I hear you, but it's definitely been getting worse. And I think the way he last year sort of almost, I don't know, it seemed very like belligerent in the way he went after the Hurricanes and their celebratory actions after games. Almost, very, very much insulting the whole franchise. And the fans and so on. And that isn't good for a sport. I mean, that's just not a good way. And for someone who's been known and been considered an ambassador of the sport in many years past, it's just he's not going in the right direction here. And, typically when people, who have tons of experience and maybe become a little bit more senior in age, they start having the need to want to express their opinions a bit more, personal opinions, and it's going to hurt the network. It's going to hurt the sport, and it's not going to be good for anyone. And I think there's that level of professionalism that's starting to slip, and I think that they really need to curb it before it gets out of hand, before something really not good is said, and then you're going to see even more damage control. So it's a shame because this is a guy, as I said, who's been an ambassador to sport, who's done a lot of good over the years, and it's just a shame that he's heading in the wrong direction there.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, if he gets taken off the air, that's a huge loss to the game.
Yeah.
He says some crazy stuff, but he's got a lot of experience. He knows a lot of people. He knows a lot of things. So to lose that personality just because he says stuff like that. I mean, really, anytime a broadcaster says something like that, it's just inappropriate. And it's one thing too. If the players kind of do that, they do it on their own terms or whatever the case may be. But even for all the divisiveness of guys taking a knee during the NFL, they didn't say anything during the game, right? They just did it. They were quiet, And so if Don Cherry wanted to wear I would say some strange suit, but that's pretty much all he wears. But if there was something he wanted to wear that, as a sign or of a message or something like that, but then he didn't say anything, okay, right? That's okay. But that's a broadcast. That's a live broadcast. And there are people that aren't expecting it. They have kids in the room. I mean, there's any number of things that are wrong with that. And so, I hope he comes out, because he still hasn't apologized. The network has apologized, but he still hasn't. I hope he reflects. And I'm not judging the right or wrong of his statement, right? What I am saying, it was not the right forum to bring it up.
Yeah.
And we'll just leave it at that, right? Like, I don't agree with what he said, but I'm not judging the right or wrongness. It's just inappropriate and just not the right place. And I hope he cleans it up, because the sport will suffer a loss if they figure out they got to pull him off the air. Yeah. So.
Yep. I would agree. Very good. Let's take a quick look at what is on the schedule. And today is the Sunday the 10th. So going forward toward the 11th, which is Monday, November 11th, we have Arizona and Washington tomorrow evening. And let's do our picks, Scotty. Who are you taking, Arizona or Washington?
Washington, hands down.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. Ottawa, Carolina.
Man, that one's going to be tough. Ottawa they did some strange things this weekend, but I still think Carolina is going to come out on top. That bunch of jerks. I think they're going to be able to pull it out.
I would. I agree. And that's going to cover Monday night. Should we do Tuesday night?
Yeah. I mean, it's, just those two games there. Tuesday is a pretty big schedule there.
All right. So let's do Tuesday evening, which is Tuesday, November 12th. Yep. We have Florida, Boston. Yeah, Boston. Columbus, Montreal.
Oh, man. I'm going to go with Columbus on that one.
I'm going Montreal on that one.
All right.
Oh, geez. Here we go. Pittsburgh Rangers.
Yeah, it's Pittsburgh. I think they've kind of got their feet under them, really, and I think they're going to break that streak, and they're going to score a power play goal.
You know what? I'm not even going to vote for either one of those teams. Next one.
Okay.
Arizona. What?
I said it's okay. You can say it. You know what's going to happen.
I can't go with either one of those teams. Any Islanders fans watch me, whatever team I say, I'm just going to catch a whole bunch of you know what. So that's like a trap if I've ever seen one. Arizona, St. Louis.
St. Louis.
Yes. Colorado, Winnipeg.
Colorado.
I'm going to go Winnipeg.
All right.
Nashville, Vancouver. That's a
Yeah,
tough one.
that is a tough one. I'm going to go with Nashville. I think speed is gonna win out over a West Coast style of play.
I'm going to go with Travis Green and the Vancouver Canucks.
All right.
Detroit, Anaheim.
Oh, Anaheim. If Gibson plays, that game's almost a lock. Detroit's up and coming. They have been over the past couple of years, but still not there. Fun to watch. Just haven't put it all together yet.
I'm going to go with Anaheim also. Minnesota Kings.
Oh God. Really? Do we really have to go with that one? Los Angeles is last. They're like dead last in the league.
Really rough.
But you know what? I'm gonna call them. I gotta have an underdog. I'm gonna go with the Kings.
Somebody has to win, I think.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Kings on that one. They need to win.
I'll go with the Wild.
All right.
Edmonton, San Jose.
Edmonton really has one line that's doing anything right now.
Yeah.
But you know they're getting some okay goaltending. That one line stays hot.
Yep.
I'm going to go with Edmonton on that one.
I would agree with you on that one.
All right.
And that covers Tuesday, November 12th. And then hopefully we will be back in touch with everybody in a couple days and maybe even by Wednesday the 13th. And we can catch up and discuss. Well, probably not that easy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But within a couple days, we'll be back.
Yeah.
And we know everyone out there is going to be missing us between now and then.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah. No, it was good. I think we have a good format going, and especially for just our third episode. And yeah, it's good stuff.
I would agree, sir. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you very much to everybody out there who's joined us, and look forward to another chat in the near future. So hope everyone has a good evening.
All right.